Is winning everything? What if no one will play? How's it going, everybody, today? Good to see you out there. Welcome to my channel. My name's Thomas, and I do videos on a number of different topics. For now, though, we've been focused on a series of videos on the tree of life. And I've been rolling out every day one out of 144 different videos that are based on the tree of life, the different stages that we go through in life. And I have a list of those stages that you could get from me for free. If you click the link in the description, I'll send that right out to you. And it helps if you have that list. As you listen to my videos, it just puts things into context, and it's kind of just a roadmap that you can use to kind of keep score at home while you listen to the videos that I roll out every day. So just click the link in the description for that. Now here is the diagram for the tree of life. This diagram goes way back to at least ancient Egypt, and the ancient Hebrews used it and called it Kabbalah, and it may have other names too. It's used by a lot of people now who you might call Satanists, and but that does not mean that it's an evil diagram. It's just a diagram. It's just like any other technology. It can be used for good or ill. And that's why I think it's one of the reasons I think it's very important, because if the Satanists are using it on you, if you know how it works, then you can defend yourself with that knowledge. They can't use it against you if you know how it works. And so that's kind of the idea. The other reason is that it's a fantastic tool to use in order to organize your own thinking. And so I'm rolling this out here at the beginning before I start teaching all the other subjects that I teach, which are mostly like the 3R subjects and also history, but a quantum or spiritual or sacred version of those things. So a quantum arithmetic and a sacred geometry and so on and so forth, of basic academic subjects, but a more sacred take on them that you haven't heard of yet. Because I've studied over the last 25 years a lot of what you would derisively call crackpots, people who've spent their whole life studying something, working on something, but never got recognized, never got paid, never got any exposure, but they kept at it and they kept working and they came up with something great, but nobody knows about it. I found them in the stacks of some the stacks of the basement of some library, or at least in the corners of the internet. Anyway, so that's what we have to stay tuned for, and that's why you should try to learn the tree of life. The way you learn it is by memorizing the diagram and then memorizing just a little bit about each one of these different spheres or categories, circles that are on the diagram. There are 10 circles, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then there is a thing here that's hard to see. It's kind of faded. It's the abyss, and then there's a 0 above the tree. So that makes a total of 12 different categories. And then, as I said before, I've broken it down to another level of analysis by kind of taking the whole tree and placing it on each one of the 12. So I broke down the 12 into 12 here, 12 here, 12 here, 12 here, and so on, for a total of 144. And that's the guide that I will be sending to you. If you click the link in the description, I'll send it to you for free. So that's where we're at with that. Now let's let's go through the beginner's aspect of the course. Like the 144 is kind of like a more intermediate aspect, but here is the beginner's aspect where we just focus on the 12. The 10th sphere here is about so each one of these 12 is really a different aspect of our consciousness or faculty or ability of our consciousness that we have to kind of exercise in order to get them to work. Many of them are atrophied or never been used. Some have been used in the past and need to be dusted off. Okay, so the 10th sphere here is about our survival or instinct, the state of nature, the law of the jungle, kill or be killed. It also has to do with the state of the body and how the body, it automatically keeps us alive. Our heart beats regardless of whether we will it to or not. Our body digests food, whether we ask it to or not. Our body keeps us alive. And so that's kind of like our survival at the 10th sphere. Now, at the 9th sphere, this is what we get as we open this up, as we begin to grow. So this is maybe the first 5 to 7 years of our life is when this is really opening up. And this is our heightened receptivity. So this is, the term soaking it up like a sponge. When we're babies, when we're very young, we're wide-eyed and just like absorbing everything from our environment. Everything is amazing to us. We're just like watching how it works, how to do it. And in particular, we're watching our caregivers, our parents, or whoever is in our household. This is the domestic sphere. This is in the house. And this is, we watch what they do and then we imitate that. And then we have to practice that over and over again until we memorize it. And that's how we learn how to do things. Whether it's walking or, holding a fork or, any other of those very simple tasks that we take for granted at this point in our lives. They all were a struggle to learn, and we had to be very, we had to have persistence, because these things are very hard to learn when you start. You fail and you fail, you keep falling down, you have to get up and keep doing it. So those are the kind of the key aspects here: heightened receptivity, imitation, learning through basically trial and error, but also failure, imitation, and then practice, and then memorization. And then once we memorize it to a certain point, it becomes old hat, where it's not even conscious. We don't even have to think about it. Now when we go walking, we don't think about, okay, put this foot forward and then put it down, and then if when we start thinking about that, that's when we start screwing up. So once we memorize this behavior, it's old hat, and it's better that we don't even think about it while we're doing it, because that's how we get screwed up. So that's also a 9th sphere kind of thing. Okay, then moving to the 8th sphere, this is really where the 9th sphere is the domestic sphere, the 8th sphere is the public. So this is going out into public, once you go to school, once you go to church, once you go to Little League or whatever it is, you encounter people out in the world, and it's really like the establishment and the institutions. This is where all the resources are located. This is where all the status is, and the prestige is located. These are where, you can find all your expert opinions, the doctors with the lab coats, the people with the initials at the end of their name, and this is where they dispense the conventional wisdom or the consensus worldview, and they tell you what you're supposed to believe. You know, they tell you, okay, this is good and this is bad. This is what you root for and this is what you root against. You know, this is how you represent and this is, and so they tell us what you're supposed to believe, and if we follow the directions, we get a path into the A sphere. We get the best grades in school, we get into the bright college, we get the best job, if we follow the directions. If we stray and we don't follow the directions, then it's a more difficult path. The other thing here at the A sphere is that the A sphere is a trickster. So what they're telling you that you're supposed to believe is not necessarily true. It's just convenient for them to have you believe it. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And that's where the tension comes in, and that highlights the aspect of the A sphere, which is the rationalization or the rational faculty, logic and reason. But logic and reason is very limited. It's limited by the input that you make, and it's limited by several different fallacies that come under that umbrella, including rationalization, which is where you convince yourself that something is true when it really isn't. And that's a tension here, is that we get this idea that is planted into us by the establishment. Oh, this is what is true. This is what you're supposed to believe. But it contrasts directly with our own experience. And so eventually we recognize that we have to get accepted here because this is where all the resources are. But at the same time, we're living a lie because we know that this isn't true. And so we have to rationalize it. And one of the ways that we rationalize it is we say, oh, well, my own experience, I must have been hallucinating, or something's wrong with me. I don't see things the way everybody else is. And that's what they do, is they convince you that this is a consensus, that like, oh, everybody knows that, that you're like a minority of one. You're the only person that sees it the way that you see it. Everybody else is on board with this. Why don't you just get on board with this? And so it takes a good deal of conviction and possibly even desperation to kind of move away from this A sphere, and you move across here to the seventh sphere. While the A sphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is really like the imaginary world. So it's your imagination. You imagine something better than what's being presented here at the A sphere. And so that is one of the faculties here at the seventh sphere, is your imagination. Another thing is your discernment. You've discerned that something's wrong over here. You also have your inspiration. You've been exposed to other people who also see a problem there. And they've inspired you to, and that's there have been a lot of psychological studies where, the study is set up for you're the only experiment in the room, but you think that all these other people are there doing the same thing, and they're telling you to press the button to deliver an electric shock to somebody. And it's a guy in a white lab coat, so you're like, oh, but you see that the person is writhing in pain that you're delivering the shock to, and but then when they insert into the experiment somebody who goes against it and says, hey, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm putting this guy into pain, then if that one person does it, then everybody else is like, yeah, this is ridiculous, I can't keep doing this. But if nobody is there to be the inspiration, then everybody just keeps pressing the button, so somebody's got to stand up, and that person can be the inspiration for a lot of other people to stand up also. Then other factors at the seventh sphere include our intuition, going inside of us, the feeling deep inside of us, and feeling if that, how do we feel about that? Also our creativity, our ability to create new things out of nothing. And then our pleasure principle, our ability to take things from disparate that are disparate and put them together into wholes that are pleasing to people. So all of these factors go into the seventh sphere. And then especially the inspiration gives us the impetus to keep going further up the tree, because that's the 1% inspiration. But we have to put in the 99% perspiration, which is a long walk uphill on a bumpy road, or even a run up to the sixth sphere. But the sixth sphere is really the center of the tree, and it's our free will faculty. This is really divided into two parts: our free will as our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions. And this is the center of the map. This was a map, it would say you are here. So we are here in general paying attention, but most of the time our attention is focused right back down on the 8th and 9th and 10th spheres. This is our comfort zone. This is what we grew up with. This is what we're accustomed to. And so, in order to really exercise our free will, we have to take the other half of free will, our ability to make decisions, and we have to decide to avert our attention from this lower area here, and to turn our back on this, turn our back on the voices of the consensus and the repetition of how we grew up and the needs of the body, and turn it around and turn our attention on our higher aspects, even though those aspects aren't really well developed at this point. So that's the key at the sixth sphere, is to be able to avert our attention and choose to place our attention on our higher aspects. So the first place that we place this attention is on the fifth sphere, and this fifth sphere is really our sense of justice. This is our ability to tune into. This is our ability to, figure out, what is just and what is unfair, and this is really also known as karma. So our karma is our ability to determine waste, violence, and violation in our lives. How can we, is what we're doing just, or are we violating somebody? Is what we're doing just, or are we doing violence to somebody or something? Is what we're doing just, or are we wasting resources or wasting time or wasting anything? And the karma, you can think of the fifth sphere as there being a mirror right here. And it's, what comes around goes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so if we're paying attention here at the sixth sphere, if we've averted our attention from down here and moved our attention up here, when we act, we get feedback on our actions. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It comes back to us. And so we can tell whether our actions are pure by what kind of a reaction we're getting. If we're getting violated, then that must mean that we violated somebody before that. If we're getting violence, it means that we're giving violence. And so we have to clean up our behavior to clean up our karma. And so that is how we can use our karma as a teacher. It's not our enemy, it's our teacher. Okay, then the fourth sphere is kind of the counterpart to the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law, the natural order of things. The fourth sphere is really about the articulation of the natural law, or the natural order. It is the cosmologies, the holy books, the theories of everything that tell you that maybe have taken entire civilizations' history to put it together, but they tell you how everything is. Who is God? Where did this world come from? What are we doing here? What is our purpose? Where are we headed? And all of these, and how does everything fit together? It tries to make sense of everything in the world. Some of them are better than others. Some of them have stood a test of time. Some of them are new. Some of them have been tampered with. Some of them, are pristine. But the best approach is probably to study as many of these as you can, and then to be able to actually then intuit again, to go inside and figure out what resonates with my own experience. So that you can avoid this kind of ambivalence or tension where it's like, oh, well, they told me the truth, but it doesn't jibe with my own experience. Here, but here, the law, so-called, is being laid down by commandment and by decree. Here, the law is being laid down by observation. This is how people have observed the world. This is how they've measured it. This is how they've experienced it. And this is how they've experimented. They've made experiments to determine things. And so this is way more in harmony with your actual experiences. And so to be able to intuit how you feel about all these different cosmologies, and you can kind of use a syncretic approach to come up with your own. Okay, and this fourth sphere is all about syncretism or synthesis, where the fifth sphere is about analysis. This is really like a left brain thing. The left brain is about separating things, and the right brain is about putting them together. But they're on different levels. This is like separating and putting together on a surface level, and this is on a deeper level, which is like more like form, function, and interrelationship. Okay, then we got the abyss here, which is about psychic powers. They are psychic heat, psychic receptivity, and psychic heat. Our ability to tune into and recognize omens. And those are synchronicities or recurring themes, recurring names, deja vus, uncanninesses, things that stick out in your mind, and then it gives you a path. So you have to recognize it, and then you have to see what action is required. And to recognize it is the psychic receptivity, and then to take that action is the psychic heat, which requires courage again. Just like at the sixth sphere, it requires courage to avert our attention and to roll it over and to basically stare into the unknown. Here we're doing that also. We're having to put ourselves out there by making that action. Okay, then 3, 2, and 1 are our divine aspects within us. Omnipotence, all-powerful. Omniscience, all-knowing, or wisdom, the ability to solve problems. And omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. Okay, this is tapped into through sound, omnipotence through sound, and then synchronized sound. Coherent light, being able to see into our deepest center. And then this is really about being able to be at our deepest center. And this is our unifying aspect, where when we are at our deepest center, we realize that it's everybody else's deepest center too. The Mesoamericans had the term in la catch. I am another yourself. Okay, we are all the same at this level. Okay, then the 0 above the tree is really not in the universe, and it is a mystery, and it is a nothingness. Okay, nothingness is not in the universe. There is no nothing in the universe, but there is a nothing in the creator. So this is part of the creator, but is not part of the universe, and so it's a mystery. We only have indirect access to it. Okay, so that's the beginner's version. Now, to go to a little bit more advanced, we talk about the 144 fractal faculties. Okay, so today we're looking at number 64. And number 64 is located right here in the fifth sphere. and it's the 7th fractal of the 5th sphere. So what we're talking about, the 5th sphere is about our karma, sense of justice. This is about our ability to, recognize the justice of our actions. It's also our ability to, this is where really subculture is located, where, so-called culture is here. This is really subculture. It's inverted. It trumps the culture. It's above, directly above. So it's answering all the same questions, but better. And then the 7th sphere is about our imagination, our intuition, our inspiration, our pleasure principle, and our discernment. And these are, so this is the fractal inside of the 5th sphere. So this is what we're talking about, the combination of that 7th sphere aspect with the 5th sphere sense of justice thing. And this fractal is called, the question was, is winning everything? What if no one else will play? And number 64 is called Thrill of the Chase. Stage number 64 is about purification by operating according to principle, not expedience. Thrilled by the drill, thrilled by the steep uphill, thrilled even by the run of the mill, but not the kill. Purification is the principle. Practice to make perfect. Practice to purify. On the creative experimental path. For principle, for posterity. The mere pursuit, the pure pursuit, is the passion. No need to compare ourselves with other people. Every measure, every metric is a continuum that we're right in the middle of. Endure the long uphill climbs. Endure the long uphill runs, the long uphill grinds. Experience runner's high. We're only competing against ourselves, former versions of ourselves. We see the growth nobody else does. Press, continue on, even without external results, approval, or reward. Like a scavenger, explore the margins for clues, take the creative experimental path by necessity, as all others are dead ends. We must break new ground, take the creative experimental path, try it out on ourselves, like Guinea Pig B did. Guinea Pig T. We reside in uncharted territory permanently. Okay, that is the 7th fractal of the 5th sphere, Thrill of the Chase. And that also talks about where the 5th sphere is about, it's really an extension. We talked about this the other day too. The 5th sphere is an extension of the 6th sphere in that in the ancient Egyptian, the 6th sphere is called Heru. And really the 7th sphere is called Het Heru, the house of Heru. It's kind of like the beginning, the spark of Heru, or it really corresponds to the gonads. Het Heru, and then Heru here, the hero at the 6th sphere. But then here, the 5th sphere is called Heru Kahudi, which means Heru of two horizons, which means Heru is about being able to face our fears. But it's really like a one-shot deal. Like if we give a public speech, or if we have to perform in front of a lot of people, this is where we have to summon our Heru, where we're really scared about it, but we got to do it. And we stand in the face of fear and we do it. But at the 6th sphere, this is Heru Kahudi, Heru of two horizons, which means Heru from morning to night, like meaning that we are facing our fears all day long. Okay, that's And so that's what the fifth sphere is about. And this is has a lot to do with this thrill of the chase, or the creative experimental path. Okay, I guess we're right at 30 minutes. And that's kind of what I shoot for, even though some of these videos are a lot shorter. But thanks for sticking around. And again, click the link if you'd like a list of the 144 fractal faculties. And smash the like button. And share the video with others. And subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for future videos in this series. One will come tomorrow. And take a guess as to what number it will be. And you'll find out tomorrow. So have a beautiful day, and we'll see you then.